So now that we are done with this, I would like to go ahead and close Nessus right here. And next, let's move on to something else. So one more thing which I would like to talk about when you're thinking about network services and port vulnerabilities, in your pentest box itself, I can just clear the screen first of all. And right here, basically on this machine, I found that port 21 was open. So one more very handy thing which I could have used right here would be Nmap's Vuln script. So as you know, Nmap is generally used as an active information gathering tool, but to some extent it can also help us to do vulnerability analysis. It has got its own databases which it can check for us. So in this case, I can just specify the port which I found earlier, for example 21, and the script which I want to use using the -- script option, and then say vuln. So vulnerability is the script which I want to use, and then my target finally. That's how easily you can use it, and press enter, and in some time you will get to know that the vulnerability actually was found using the Nmap's database. So let's wait for the results. Alright, so it took like 37.47 seconds in order to complete the scanning, but it finally found the vulnerability for us, which is FTPD Pro FTPD backdoor. And the results, when it was testing the exact vulnerability, it was able to control that system and run this id command on that. So that's how you can use Nmap's Vuln script as well to know about critical vulnerabilities which are present in a service. So you can just close that now, and even this machine actually, let me leave it. But one last thing which I would like to teach you here is VEGA vulnerability scanner. So first of all, I'll take a target website from here. It's only made for demo purposes, so it's not something illegal we're doing here. It's made for testing purposes, testphp.vulnweb.com. And I shouldn't have closed the pentest box actually, because the VEGA scanner, it is pre-installed in the pentest box package. So you can download it separately as well if you want, but since pentest box gives you so many tools at once to use, I like to use it. Now when you just open your pentest box and say VEGA, you will get to see that you have your VEGA vulnerability scanner interface, which looks something like this. It's a product by Subgraph and can be a really helpful free scanner which you can use to scan for website security vulnerabilities. So in this case, what you need to do here is just go to scan, start new scan, and right here you can give the base URL which you want to scan. So it's your target URL basically, and you have to give the base URL, not a specific directory here. And you can even choose a target scope for scan if you want. In this case, I have entered a base URI manual itself, and I say next. Right here you can select the exact modules which you want to be run right here. These are basically the vulnerabilities which you want to be checked or you don't want to be checked. So you can check and uncheck things right here. You have some additional response processing modules, for example insecure script include and HTTP header checks. So you have a lot of them. In this case, I'll leave everything on default and say next. Now if you have some cookie value here, you can put that. Basically sometimes on pages you want to test with a little bit of extra access. In that case, you use some methods to extract your cookie, or maybe you just get that from the owner of the website if you're doing a pen test. And what you do there is basically you put that right here to scan the website with a bit of more access, which can be helpful sometimes. In this case, since I don't have any such cookie, I can just say next. And lastly, I have the parameters which I want to test. If you want to exclude certain parameters, you can put them right here. In this case, let's keep that all default and click on finish to start the scan immediately. Now it will start to scan the website, and here you can see the live scanner progress along with the scan alert summary. So how many vulnerabilities did it found on this website? You can see it already started to find 2 major critical and 2 medium vulnerabilities, and in some time it will tell us more. So you can just go ahead on the scan alerts and try to expand a bit to see the exact vulnerabilities. So basically this is the way you use the scanners. Just select any vulnerability which you want, which it has detected, and in this you can just expand the vulnerabilities and see the exact vulnerability here, the information. So at a glance you can see very good summary here. The classification is environment resource which is vulnerable is login.php. The risk is high. The vulnerability is clear text password over HTTP. The request is this. Discussion is this, which is basically the description here. What is the impact if this vulnerability is here? The remediation, which is the fix, and references to learn more about this vulnerability. You got to know there are so many things and so many opportunities with these scanners. You have a cross-site scripting vulnerability as well. As you can see right here, we have got at a glance the resource parameter method risk classification, the attack request, the discussion, the impact, remediation, references. This is the way, okay? You just take vulnerabilities from here, and before reporting it to anyone, just make sure that you test them manually if you are in a penetration test. See, if you're doing a vulnerability assessment, you just don't have any option. You have to rely on the results which you get from these scanners because you're not allowed to run any exploits manually. But in a case of a penetration testing scenario, in that case, you will be allowed to run any kind of exploit which you want. Of course, it should not be that destructive to the system that it just destructs the whole CIA triad of that entity which is being tested. So that's what I basically want to demonstrate right here. You scan with VEGA very easily, get these vulnerabilities in medium, low, and by the way, remember that you can combine a lot of low or medium vulnerabilities to make them like a high impacting thing. So it is definitely possible. We call that concept vulnerability chaining. It's an advanced thing. And one more term which you should know is called false positives. Basically, these vulnerabilities which you see here, not all of these results will actually be 100% correct in all other situations. These scanners, they often do mistakes and point out vulnerabilities which do not even exist in reality. We call these false positives. So, these scanners can give you a lot of false positives, and that's why to measure the actual impact and validate the vulnerabilities, see if they actually exist or not, we do exploitation, and that's what we will learn about in the next lecture. I hope you learned a lot in this lecture, and vulnerability analysis, it's one of the easy tasks. This lecture might have been a bit lengthy for you, but in reality it's very less, because these things, these are the base, okay, on which we will build upon later on, and this was one of the best things I have ever learned in my life. So many people, they just skip this vulnerability assessment step at all, and they just go for finding exploits for their products directly, which is not a good practice. And I can really demonstrate this thing if you guys want, that in some cases you don't even have an exploit for a vulnerability, but you might have something like a very basic proof of concept somewhere, and you convert that to a real exploit, and basically you chain a lot of things. That's one possibility, but for now, just remember that you should not skip this vulnerability assessment step at all, and this can be really helpful for you, and you will understand that yourself when you start hacking a lot of machines. So for this lecture, that's it, that's all this stuff, and I hope you will keep learning. Let me see you tomorrow in the exploitation lecture. Thank you so much and have a great day.